Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host for this episode of the Leaders with a Heart. Today, I have a very special treat for you. I have an amazing guest, my good friend Phil from Down Under, from Canberra, Australia. Not only is a very successful business person, an amazing human being, but also he has a massive, massive heart the size of the universe. He's been doing amazing for helping and contributing to tremendous causes. That's what we're going to talk about. So, yeah, I'm not going to spoil it for you. We'll let Phil tell us that. So, Phil, it's an honor to have you with us today. How are you, my friend?
Oh, thanks, David. I'm so excited to be here, mate. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm doing very well.
It's my pleasure, my honor. So first of all, let's start. Tell us about you. Who you are. What's your story?
Oh, well, okay. Where do you want to start? I am right now I'm a financial coach.
Okay.
I am
awesome.
a financial coach, but to give you a bit of background on that, I have my grandma taught me to budget when I was 18 years old using physical glass jars and physical money. And that sort of stirred in me a real passion for money management and so on. And really, I didn't initially take that up. I used that personally, and I became an occupational therapist. But eventually, my desire, my heart for helping others with their finances led me to the finance industry, where I spent 15, 20 years realizing that most financial advisors don't actually teach people how to manage money. They don't teach people the basics of money. Even though I was very successful, I ended up being a partner in one of Australia's biggest stock-breaking financial planning firms, earning an incredible salary, way more than I ever thought I would, which gave me the opportunity to give huge amounts of money to projects my wife and I care about. But there was always felt like a square peg in a round hole. I'd always had an entrepreneurial side to me, an entrepreneurial streak to me. And in 2015, God called me quite clearly to say, I want you to walk away from the finance industry and I want you to focus on financial coaching. I want you to take that step backwards. And yes, it means you're not going to have that income anymore, but just trust that I'm going to work through you to do amazing things. And I can't think of a better way to use the gifts and abilities I've got now than to work with heart-centered entrepreneurs who are out there trying to make a difference in the lives of people. And if I can invest in them, then I'm leveraging my impact, because then I'm freeing them up to do what they want or what they're called to do. So right now, my focus is very much on helping entrepreneurs remove the financial barriers to their success. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background, if that makes sense.
Sure, awesome. You mentioned that in 2015 you had this call to transition from your corporate life to doing something that was more in tune with your heart. What happened exactly? What was one event? Was it the accumulation of everything that has been going on in your life? So tell us about that. What was the catalyst for that transition?
Mate, that is such a good question. Because, you sort of, when I say to people, oh, God really sort of told me to do this, obviously it can be a really airy-fairy thing, and people go, oh, how on earth did that happen? What happened was I'd always been passionate about financial coaching. And so I'd worked with, it started with one couple, the friends that just came to us and said, hey, look, we know you're really good with money management. Could you help us with this? And so I said, yeah, sure. And, I'd never had anyone ask me that before, but I found it really easy. I was able to look at the situation, give them some solutions. And within a few months, they were right on top of things. They were getting rid of their debt. They were starting to put money into savings. And then from there, they told their friends, and then they told their friends, and then they told their friends. And before I knew it, I was working with like dozens of people. And because I had this full-time career in the finance industry, they wouldn't let me do budgeting there because it was below my pay grade, if that makes sense. And it doesn't pay the business much. So I was doing it after work and on the weekends. And so I spent, I was seeing clients at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and then on the weekends as well. And in 2014, or the end of 2014, we paid off our mortgage. We were completely debt free. And our goal as a family was, once we were debt free, we were going to take the kids to Austria to have a white Christmas. That was our goal, as a family.
Beautiful.
And so while we were on that trip, I really came to a realization that I did not want to go back to life as it was, because I was working so hard in a stressful job. I was managing like a couple of $100 million in terms of people's investments and those sorts of things. It was very stressful. And then I was coming home and working long hours, helping people with their budgeting and that sort of stuff. And I knew that I just couldn't go back to that. I was burning out. And I knew in my heart that the thing that I was best at, and that there was a huge hole, there was a huge need there, was in the financial coaching. There's lots of people, there's lots of financial advisors out there, there's lots of stockbrokers out there that can manage portfolios, and probably a whole lot better than I can. But there were very, very few people helping people with the basics of financial management, which is, everyone needs that. But there's this huge hole in the market, and people weren't taught. Their parents didn't teach them how to manage money because their parents didn't know how. And so we've got this ongoing problem now where people are just basically financially illiterate. And it affects relationships, it affects mental health, it affects physical health, it affects our productivity at work, it affects our mental our sense of well-being and confidence and those sorts of things. And so in my heart, I knew that I had to make a choice. Either I was going to walk away from a seven-figure income in the finance industry and do my coaching, or I was going to go, no, I can't do the coaching anymore, and I'm going to stick with my career. And I knew what the right thing was to do all along. I knew in my heart, but I wrestled with it for the best part of 18 months, because it would mean giving up a really good income, the opportunity to give huge amounts of money, and so on. But I knew that God was calling me to say, no, you know what's right. You know what's right. Walk away from that. Just trust me with the future. And so, yeah, it took me a while, but I came to that point. And as soon as I'd made the decision, there was this huge release. I knew exactly what was right. Now, going on from that, though, the first 3 years of this journey of entrepreneurship was really hard. Like really, really, really hard. I think any entrepreneur would understand that. I think even though I prepared well, I think naively I thought that it was going to be easy. I had something that everyone needed, and therefore it would be easy, and it was anything but. But anyway, mate, so that's not what you asked me, but that gives you an idea of that journey.
Very good. And when you finally made that transition, what was your biggest obstacle, your biggest challenge? Going from a very high paid golden handcuffs in the financial industry to going on your own. What was your biggest obstacle?
The biggest obstacle, well, gosh, there were so many of them, to be truthful. The biggest obstacle, I think, was connecting with my audience. And connecting, when I say audience, and it's horrible, you sort of, I don't even like the word audience, but connecting with the people I knew I could help. And this was the thing that was most frustrating, is that I'm blessed with skills that can help anyone. And so the question was, okay, anyone's good, but when you're speaking to anyone, no one responds, because you're speaking to everyone. You're not specifically speaking to their pains. And so being a numbers guy, I'm a very logical thinker. I'm not very emotional. I'm not very good at really connecting at that deep need level. And so even though, once people get to know me, like I've got hundreds of testimonials from the people that I've helped. But, connecting with someone like who didn't know me to say, hey, I can help you, was really hard, really, really, really hard. And I still struggle with it to a certain degree, but I'm getting a lot better at it. And so because of that, I just couldn't get a consistent flow of clients. I was also undercharging for what I did, because I really felt compelled to help people that were struggling. Mm-hmm. But so I think that biggest thing was just connecting with my audience and really knowing who it was I was going to serve, because it couldn't just be anyone.
So what did you do to hone in very specifically to identify your ideal avatar, ideal customer?
Trial and error, mate, to be truthful. Trial and error. Because initially it was just, mums and dads, just people, everyday people that was struggling with money, which is a large portion of the population. The problem that I had was that I was working with people and I was charging them very little because I felt like they couldn't afford to pay much. And I had such a heart for the people that I work with that I just want them to succeed. I know, having done it thousands of times, I know when I see someone in this situation, I know within a couple of minutes of what they need to do to get to a situation, to improve their financial situation, to get to where they want to be. That's all mapped out in my brain within 2 minutes of looking at their situation. But the problem is that I also need to be able to make money.
Sure.
And so when I sit with someone and I go, well, gosh, I can see all your credit card debt and I can see all that sort of stuff, it's hard for me to actually then charge you for what I do, because that's just going to make the process for you getting ahead harder. And so I really had this struggle with that. And while today I still have a portion of the people that I work with that I'll just do it cheaply, you know, because I just, or for nothing, because I just want to help them. I then went through this process of going, okay, well, I can't just make my entire business about your mums and dads, as much as I would love to, because I need to feed my family.
Sure.
And so what I did was, I then was really lucky to be awarded what's called a Winston Churchill Fellowship, which gave me the opportunity to travel around the world studying financial literacy and financial well-being. And so from that, I developed programs for parents to teach their kids about money, which is something that I want to get back to, because as a dad of teenagers, it's so powerful, so important. And when parents haven't been taught about that themselves, if I can empower them and show them how to do it, then I really believe that they can then raise a generation of kids that do understand money. So that's very important to me. But then COVID hit, which meant that a lot of the things around that, the last thing parents were worried about was their kids' finances. It really came back to their finances. And for what I hadn't realized at that point was, mingled in amongst all the people I work with, there was actually quite a few entrepreneurs. And I was starting to get more entrepreneurs as I put more out there onto my Facebook things. I was getting more and more entrepreneurs coming to see me saying, Phil, can you help me with my finances? So I realized that is actually, and I don't know why it took me so long, because I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, to realize that my target market is actually entrepreneurs. And so it was sort of a trial and error thing. And I think one door opening and another door closing, trial and error. And finally, I got to the point where it was, okay, entrepreneurs. You know, I love entrepreneurs. I understand entrepreneurs. I understand their struggles. I understand the obstacles they're facing. I can't help them with the copywriting. I can't help them with the marketing. I can't help them with, you know, defining their audience, but I can help them with their money. That is something that I'm really, really blessed to be good at. So yeah, that's how I've come to the point now where I'm working with entrepreneurs who want to excel with their finances and want to build a profitable business. And I've had, you know, I've worked with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs, and huge amount of experience with it. Love it. And so, yeah, I'm like a pig in mud now.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us more about your business. Tell us more. What do you have? What do you offer right now? Is it like a mastermind, a coaching program, one-on-one? Walk us through, for example, let's say I'm a prospect. I'm interested in your services. Walk me through the process of joining a program, and how, basically tell me what it is, what exactly you offer, what you do. That's the time for you to tell us more about your business.
Okay, mate. All right. So my business, basically it's two things. When a client comes to me, I will sit down with them and have a chat with them about where they're at, where their finances are at right now, where they'd really like it to be. And again, with that information in front of me, I have, like, the process for me, again, it all just sits in my head very easily, is, okay, to help you move forward, you need to do this, and this. And here's the steps. This is the sequence that you need to do these things in. And that will help you. And sometimes, like, it's very often with a lot of my clients, it's literally just something as simple as just to change their way of thinking about something, and then everything falls into place for them. And so when they come to see me, I help them as best I can. At that point, if they can go away, so that's like I offer a free sort of financial blueprint session. There is no selling in there at all. It is just, hey, look, if I can help you with this one session to get something special out of it, it's going to help you move forward financially, fantastic. But then from that, very often people will go, oh, that is just great, Phil, but I can't do it myself. You know, I don't have the discipline. I don't really have the knowledge. I really like some accountability, whatever it is. How can you help me? And then at that point, there's two options that I have. One is like an 8-week course, like Akbar's course, like an 8-week course where I pretty much take you through getting your financial world set up correctly so that everything in its right place, you know the right order. It's like your financial blueprint. So I give you a blueprint to walk away with, all the tools, all the resources, and the systems to make it all happen. And I teach you how to do it over an 8-week period. That's my done with you coaching course. And so that's a group thing that people can join and come through. And then of course, there are those people that go, well, look, I'd really actually like to do it one-on-one with you, Phil. And so then I will work with people one-on-one to take them through that process and give them the more, you know, that's where the accountability really kicks in, and we're very, very focused on what's the next thing. You need to do this, go do it. Then you need to do this, go do it. Then you need to do this, go do it. And then we meet together for a few months at the end of each month to do our like end of month reconciliation, so they can start to see that progress and how it all fits together. So that's what I work with people on at the moment.
So are your clients currently mostly in Australia, or do you have clients internationally as well?
No, all over the world. I was saying to someone, actually, I'm running a group at the moment, and in that group, there's people that are from 6 or 7 different countries around the world. And I was saying last night, actually, I think earlier this week, yeah, I had, started off with a client in Norway. Then I had a client in Barbados. Then I had a client in the US. Then I had a client in Canada. Then I had a client in the UK, and then finished with someone in Austria. Wow. It's real, and none of them were Australian. So no, all over the world. I mean, money is, it doesn't matter where you are. The principles of money are the same everywhere.
Sure. How long have you been running this program for?
Oh, well, on and off for years. On and off, and very often. Initially, it was just Australian people that I was doing it with. But the programs I've been running for years and years and years, like 5-10 years. I'm only really formalizing it now, though, in, I've got a ClickFunnels set up, and I'm putting it all into courses and those sorts of things. And so I'm only really formalizing the process and trying, like we all talk about, trying to scale and leverage and all that. So I'm really, more than anything, it's about trying to just leverage my time so it's more efficient, and it's time efficient also for the people that go through it. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. What is your why with this business? What gets you going with this business?
2 things. First one is, as I mentioned earlier, is I know that most entrepreneurs struggle with money. Most people struggle, and entrepreneurs are just mums and dads. Most of them are just mums and dads that, they want to have, sorry about the dogs.
No worries.
Most of them are just mums and dads that have a dream, that have a vision, that they were made for something bigger than just the 9 to 5. And my vision, my why is to help them build the financial stability so they can make that long-term viable, so that it's not just something they do for a while before they run out of money or what have you. We all know the stats. Only 2 out of 10 entrepreneurs actually succeed. 8 out of 10 fail. And of the 2 out of 10 that succeed, one of those 1 out of 10, they just survive. I don't want people to survive. I want to help them, firstly, depending on where they're at, help them get to a point of cash flow positive before they run out of money. Then I want to help them consolidate that so they can start to grow and scale their business. And then I want to help them build the future and have the impact that they really want. So it is just, let's just get the finances right. Let's build it right. Let's create stability and security in what they're doing so that they know it's long term and they can have the impact they want to have. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I do want to be able to make plenty of money so that we can give plenty of money. My wife and I don't want for much. We own our own home. Our kids are 20, 18, and 16. So they've not got much longer with us. We would love to be able to travel, but other than that, we want to be able to give. We want to be able to, contribute to projects around the world that impacts, millions of people. So that is our second why. And that's a big one. One of the biggest things I missed over those years where I'd left my financial planning firm was I always kept coming back to some of the places we'd visited and some of the water and sanitation projects we saw and some of the microfinance projects and the school and the map projects. And I go, I just want to be able to do that. I just want to be able to give to those things. And so yeah, mate, that sums it up. That would be our second why there.
That's a perfect segue because that's my next question, which is basically the name and the theme of this program is Leaders with a Heart, not just people who are successful, but also people with a massive heart and building businesses with a purpose, mission, and a cause. So because you mentioned that nicely, what is the cause that's really gets you going, that is really dear to your heart? And how are you contributing if you are? I'm sure you are. Tell us about that.
Yeah. We live in countries that are so wealthy, and we really have, and we complain about these such stupid things. We let the silly things get us down when we live in such wealth, such comfort, such luxury, really, relative to the rest of the world, and so helping meet the practical needs of people around the world. Now, water and sanitation is a really big one. I know initially we connected over a post that I'd put out about water and sanitation projects that my wife and I have been supporting. But actually, when you get out there on the field and you get out into the middle of a third world country or developing country, and you just go, these guys, this is the water that they're drinking, carted up from a filthy river. And then you go, they spend half their lives sick or with, or they die from, waterborne diseases and those sorts of things. And you go, this is just ridiculous when I waste water at home so freely, and yet these guys don't have this basic. And yet having fresh water just changes so much. It means they can get to school. It means they can get to work. It means that they can then change their whole situation, their family situation. So water and sanitation is a very, very big one for me because it's such a basic of life, and everyone deserves to have those basics. So yeah, where we can, we contribute. And at the moment, we're contributing to some water and sanitation projects in Kalimantan. And we were really lucky through our church. We had a friend that worked with a mission organization called In Trust here in Australia. And that mission organization, or that organization, was actually a fund, like it was self-funded. A rich benefactor had given them hundreds of millions of dollars years ago. So all of their admin is covered by that. So it just means that any money that anyone gives then goes directly to the projects. So there's none of the money you give lost in admin fees. With a lot of the organizations, they tend to be very inefficient, and NGOs are very inefficient, and there are a lot of wastage because they don't run like a corporation often. Whereas in this situation, we knew that the money that we gave went directly to the projects, and because we had friends in there, they were actually able to take us overseas with them and visit some of these projects.
That's amazing.
Which then, when you've got your heart invested in it, when you've actually been to see it, you've met the people, you've seen what's happening, it's just so much easier to be joyful about the giving. So yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment. But there's been some microfinance, being a finance guy, where you actually money is lent sort of interest free to people to start their own businesses, and it's entrepreneurship on a different sort of level. And then also education for kids in those countries. So we saw some school on the mat where the kids, surrounded by chickens and pigs and all those things, were just sitting there and listening to the teacher for, 2 or 3 hours each day, where they could learn their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s and, that sort of stuff, which is really fun. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment, mate.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Not only we have so much that we take for granted, but you said not only these people don't have, say, proper drinkable water, but even for them to be able to get to there, they have to walk like 5-10 kilometers just to get there.
Oh,
absolutely
100%.
crazy. and they have to carry it
Yeah.
on their head, especially for
Yeah.
young children or women. That's
Yeah.
that's crazy. That, for example, as you said, we waste, I don't know, maybe 5-10 liters of water every day just by, even without even paying attention, while even 1 liter can be the difference between someone being able to have a normal life, or someone that gets affected by disease, and not being able to, as you said, to go to school, let alone work, because there's no work there. So
Yeah.
no, you're right, you're
Exactly
right.
right.
And I also
Yeah.
like the fact that you mentioned that a lot of the negatives with big NGOs and programs, as you said, is that maybe 50 to 60% of what you pay, every dollar that you pay, goes to admin fees and pay salaries of big fat executives and
Yeah.
ivory towers, which is
Yeah.
this, the contribution we give. It's not for that. These guys do not need that money. And that's why so far I've been very hesitant to give money to charities or whatever, because the money I give, I want it to go to the actual people that need it. And that's one thing that
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
working on right now. I don't know if you read my story, but I want to
Yeah.
build I'm an e-commerce guy. I want to
Yeah.
build launch a product in Argentina using leather material, and for each unit I will be selling, I will be donating one pair of free eyeglasses to people that need glasses but cannot afford it. So they give them
Yeah.
the gift of eyesight, starting with this, and eventually expand to other, other our market and
Yeah.
other products. Because I've been a giver ever since I was a kid. I always
Yeah.
loved helping people. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fantastic, mate. That's
Mhm.
excellent.
What other
Yeah.
programs are you involved currently? You said water sanitation and schools, and you said one of the things that I really loved is you said going there in person to these countries and seeing the people that are actually benefiting from these programs. Tell us more about some of the places that you've been, and some of the actual. Tell us about some of the experience from on the ground.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, the places that we've been, it's funny, we had several years where we tried to get to places like we were supporting projects in Nepal for a while, and just as we were about to go to Nepal to visit one of the projects over there, they had a massive earthquake back in
Yes,
2015,
I
which
remember that.
prevented us from going there. Yeah. And then we were planning on going to India to some projects we were supporting over there, but then they had in the area there had been a number of kidnappings of Westerners, and so they said, oh, maybe we probably shouldn't be going there. So it ended
Yeah.
up being sort of Thailand and Cambodia was where we ended up going. And it was, as I said to you, we saw a mix of things while we were there. And there's a couple of things that really stood out. I obviously people listening to this won't have read my Facebook post, but there was one place we went to, and it was, we were staying near Siem Reap, which is quite famous from a tourist perspective because they've got all the temples there, the stone temples, and like ruins of them. But we were going out into the countryside, out into the middle of nowhere to these villages that you go out there, and I remember driving along this really horrendously bumpy road with the kids to see these projects, and we were wondered whether the vehicles would be able to hold up to it. It was that bumpy, and it was that dry, and it was that hot, and we were seeing these huts along the way, which I remember thinking to myself, my garage, not my garage, my shed at home, my garden shed at home is
Hmm.
better than the places these guys are living in.
Sure.
And and then we get to this village, and where we were going to hand out water filters and also give sanitation lessons. So they're actually lessons on lessons on the importance of cleanliness, and which is interesting because you think we just take it for granted, but that it's not something that's readily known, that you're getting sick, you're getting diarrhea because of these things. And so actually just teaching people those simple basics was actually quite powerful. But then we were able to hand out water filters to the villagers, but we only had enough water filters for a third of the village. And that meant that there was 2/3 of the village that weren't going to get it. And there was a well in the middle of town, and this well had been built by the government. But when they got to the dry season, the water tables dropped so that the well was no longer deep enough to reach the water. And so
Wow.
that's when they had to truck it in from they actually had it trucked in. And so they had to spend quite a bit of their money to truck in this water that was absolutely filthy, which made them sick, but it was that or nothing. And so when we met the people, we saw the kids, we're so happy, which is just, you think about our culture and how many people are suffering with anxiety and depression and all those sorts of things. And yet these people were so genuinely happy, despite the fact, there's so many struggles they've got in life. But what really stuck with me was, as we were leaving, I said to the organizer, I said, what would it cost? We've only given a third of these people water filters. What would it cost to give the rest water filters? And what would it cost to get that well dug so that it actually gave them water all year round? And initially they said to me, and this is a very standard line from NGOs and charity organizations, well, it's not that easy. We can't just, bring white people in here and then all of a sudden they've all got water filters and they've all got wells. And, what about the other villages? And and we don't want them to think that every time a white person comes in, they're going to have, they're just going to get given what they want and all that sort of stuff. And it just sets the wrong precedents. And I understood all of that, but I said to them, what would it cost? Please tell me, what would it cost for us? And I was thinking in my head, it might be $15,000, $20,000, something like that. And, we were quite, at that stage, we were really blessed to be able to give hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, that wasn't going to be a big issue for us. And, but they came back to us and said it was $4,360. Wow. $4,360. And you go, you are kidding me. That's all it's going to cost to give this village a well that they can get water from all year round, and not just this generation of people, but every generation after them. And we can give them water filters, because they still sort of needed to keep the water clean, and to give water filters to the rest of the village. That was it, $4,360. I was like, and so, and the kids were super excited because they'd been there, they'd seen the village. And so they gave the $366 and my wife and I gave the $4,000. And you think about what we waste money on. And in our culture, I know that one of the things that I do when I'm working with people is one of the biggest areas that we waste money on these days is food. Bought coffees, bought lunches, takeaway, dining out, grocery shopping that's just with no plans. There's a lot of waste. Most families waste the equivalent of $4,000 a year just by not managing their spending well. And yet this is going to give people water for life.
Funny you mentioned that. I just was going through the numbers in my head. Right now we're in a lockdown here in Toronto, Canada. I just go to my mind. Mind you, all the restaurants are closed. There's nothing to spend money on. You cannot go out, anything. Just on groceries alone, I spent $3,000 in 3 weeks. $3,000 in 3 weeks, just in groceries here in Toronto, Canada, and some basic bills. So just to give you an idea of how much money we spend, rather waste here, that can have a massively more beneficial impact in these places. Just like you said, for $4,300, you can drastically improve the quality of life of an entire village for generations to come. That's just mind blowing.
Yes. It is, isn't it? It is. And so, if people could just, often at the moment, I'm helping people get their finances sorted just so they can get out of debt, build some security and stability into their lives. But this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because if I really believe that entrepreneurs are the givers of our culture. I really believe that, most entrepreneurs get into entrepreneurship because it's something they truly believe in and they want to make a difference in the lives of other people. And that's where I'd love to sort of add that extra string to their bow and say, like Akbar does, we want to make more so that we can give more. And I just think about the leverage effect. If I can help other people manage their finances well, so that they could just give X amount, whatever they're comfortable with per month, then all of a sudden we're changing the lives of tens of thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And I can't remember what the figure is, but once I saw this figure that said, what would it actually cost to give everyone fresh water around the world?
Wow.
And it was much lower. The figure was much, much lower than you could ever imagine. It's in the billions, of course, but when you think about what gets wasted by governments, by corporations, it's not a big figure. And it's like,
And also speaking of that, I saw a figure that's even more mind blowing is that in the US alone, restaurants waste enough food in one day to feed the entire planet for a month. Just in one day, all the food,
Wow, I'd never
wasted by
heard that, but that's
restaurants.
amazing.
Absolutely mind blowing. Because a lot of food that they don't sell or whatever, leftovers from the clients. I mean the patrons of the restaurant, they order too much, they don't finish their plates. All of that gets tossed away. Well, that can change the lives of people in other
Yeah,
places. That's
that's
insane.
right. That is insane. That is, and look, it's wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Big
Really,
time. Big
it's
time.
wrong. And it's easy for us to sort of sit here and say it's wrong. We all live very comfortable lives. We all eat whatever we like, and so on. But the fact is, we don't need to give up a lot to give people like a future. We don't. And I just love. There's a book that I'm reading at the moment called Thank You, and Thank You Chapter 1, and it's by an Australian entrepreneur who, as a teenager, was convicted about the fact that, about this crisis with fresh water around the world. And so this book is about the 8 years of struggle or so on that he went through to basically create a business where they have taken on the big bottlers, and so they now produce water, and that water called Thank You water, and people can buy that, and 100% of those profits go towards water and sanitation projects around the world.
Wow. Amazing.
And I was just reading through Rui's book, looking at the stats he's put in there. It's just like, if only more of us had a heart to do this, the impact would just. And I really believe. And you look at people like Akbar, who talks about Wellaware, and there's a guy, Charity Water, Scott.
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah, I know what you're talking.
Brilliant. And these are guys that are entrepreneurs. They're not big corporations. These guys are just people with a heart to make a difference. And every single one of us as entrepreneurs, if we can get our finances sorted, we can build a profitable business. Then what if you were to put 10% of your profits towards water and sanitation projects? If we could inspire entrepreneurs to do this, and I think most entrepreneurs have a heart to do it, if they could just get their nose in front financially, they have a heart to do it. We could change the world in the space of 5 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's that's my heart for it, and that's where I'm passionate about it.
I can see that. I fully agree with you because I'm also equally passionate, and I have a firm belief that it's our not only duty but responsibility as entrepreneurs to do good in the world, not just because it's the right thing to do as a human being, but also because doing good is good for business, because people want to do business with businesses and people that they can relate with. And the best way to relate with people is if you can see that business or that person is actually caring about the community, whatever. It's not the responsibility of governments or politicians to improve the world. It's us as entrepreneurs, because we're the ones creating the jobs for small mom and pops. We're the one creating the wealth, hiring the people, and that's what we need. And as you said, all it takes is one person doing something, and then all they have to do is just pass it forward, help another person. If all of us do help one person, then as you said, within 5 years, not even within a generation, within 5 years, it's going to be a different environment in the world.
100%. It is not hard, and it's you sort of think about if we gave, let's say we gave $4,000 a year. Now we're fortunate where we even though we're trying to I'm building my business back up now. We're not giving the hundreds of thousands we were, but every month we make it a priority. In fact, my wife and I, we give to our church. But then over and above that, we increase what we're giving each year. And so we've been doing this for the last 13 years. So each year we increase by 1% what our giving is. And so every month when we sit down, we go through our income for the month, what our expenses were for the month. And in fact, forget expenses, we basically just go on our gross income. We say 13% of whatever our gross income was, we are going to give to projects. And then we do give over and above that as well. But it's really beautiful to just see each month there's a new fresh amount of money. You go, right, where are we going to give this? And when I look at the impact and go, okay, well, last month for us, that was about $5,000. We can go, well, $5,000, brilliant. We are going to be able to give that to this organization, you think, well, if $4,366 was able to give a whole village fresh water, then this $5,000 is going to be able to do the same sort of thing. And if we can get all entrepreneurs to that point where they go, right, every year, every month, I'm going to work out what is my giving component and give that. And then there's another well for a village, or another 2 wells for a village, or another 3 wells for a village. The leverage, the impact of that is just huge.
Absolutely. It's amazing. And I'm just blown away to see that, there's people with such amazing hearts in the world. I saw a couple of quotes that I'm quickly going to share with you that said that the 2 most important dates in a person's life are, first, when you're born, and second, when you find out why you're here, what's your mission. But that's a thing that not a lot of people get to experience that, because most people just coast. I wouldn't say like a zombie, but just coast through life without even opening their eyes. But the few of us are actually lucky and privileged enough to realize that, then it's a turning point. You become a completely different person. So instead of just chasing the money, and getting into the corporate rat race, trying to get the latest car, the latest toy, the bigger house, then you say, wait a second, I don't need that. Instead, let me make a contribution. Let me make an impact, because there's nothing more powerful, more incredibly fulfilling than when you see it in the eyes of someone that you just helped. The gratitude in their eyes, it gives you goosebumps, gives you almost tears. That's something that has no price. That's for me, that's the equivalent of a soul orgasm, because there's nothing more powerful than that. And that's something that we can do. And the incredible thing is, it's not something that is reserved only for the billionaires. Every single one of us in the Western world, we can do that. It's not a matter of spending more money. It's just a matter of spending our money in a more smarter way, more efficient way, and recycle some of the money wasting, and just, put it aside for projects. Not just money. It can be books. It can be old clothes. It can be things that we're not using anymore. So there's many ways we can do. And so there's many ways we can. Absolutely amazing. I'm just privileged to be in a group like that is full of people that, that are givers. Everything happens for a reason, because even though I've been a giver all my life, but it's really only now that I'm really at a stage that my full focus is on being impactful and giving, that I came across Akbar, and I think everything happens for a reason.
100%, mate. It does. And you look at some of the most successful people in the world, and like Bill Gates is a really good example, but I was reading a book a couple of years ago, and it just had a list of all of the famous people that we know in life who have been quoted as saying, I only found real joy and fulfillment in having money when I discovered giving. And so I really believe, for all the wealth, for the fame and what have you, there's no joy from having, having stuff. It's fun at the time, and I think, it's nice to have it initially, but then after a while you just take it for granted. And that joy that you get from all that enjoyment you get from it is very short-lived. And then you're on looking for the next thing, the next car, or the next, what's next. And I think it's completely different with giving, because when you're giving, like you said, you can look at the people that you're giving to, you can see the impact you've had. And that just continuously gives you that sense of, wow, I am doing something here that is making such a big difference that's going to last well beyond me. That's going to last, hopefully hundreds of years into the future. It's powerful, so powerful, mate. And I love that quote you said just then about, finding your why is the second most important date, because it's so true.
Oh yeah, for sure. And absolutely right. Absolutely. I was just about to say something, but I just forgot it right now. But anyways, let me see. Yeah, no, for sure. So if someone wants to reach out to you and find you, where can they find you?
Oh, well, look, I've got obviously on my Facebook page is probably the best thing. So if you just go to Phil McGilvray, Mr. Money Skills is the name that a bunch of kids gave me at one of the schools. So that's what been stuck with me. So Phil McGilvray, Mr. Money Skills. you can find my personal profile,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, look, there's like, I post on there very, very regularly. If you're interested in having a chat with me, going through my financial blueprint, no pressure at all. I just love connecting with people. You can see if you go to the financiallyfitentrepreneur.com.
Wait, financially fit.
Financially,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fit
financially fit entrepreneur.com.
entrepreneur.com. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
And then that is like, I've basically got like a very basic website sort of funnel landing
Okay.
page there where people
Cool.
connect with me through that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a topic I'm extremely passionate. You and me, we can talk for hours and hours, but for the sake of
We
brevity,
could.
we'll cut it off for now. It's pretty much at the end of the. But before we finish, I just have one more question. Something more fun. Tell us one thing about you that is unique, that is fun, that not many people know about. That makes you being the person that you are. That's really part of the fabric of you being you. Something that's fun, unique, that not many people know about, and that you're extremely proud of it.
That's a hard question, mate. Well, I will tell you, this is not part of my fabric, but you'd be interested to know. Not many people know this, but when I was in one of our trips to Cambodia and Thailand, we took the kids to an elephant sanctuary at the end of because we paid to have for them to be able to wash a baby elephant. And so when we got there, we had elephant rides, and we had some lunch, and then we were going to go wash the baby elephants. And as we were getting back onto the big elephants, I actually fell off the elephant. Wow. And in falling off the elephant, the elephant was actually on a platform, so I fell off the elephant and off the platform. Ooh. And ripped my hamstring from the bone, and it was I think one of the most painful things I've ever done. And so we basically, luckily it was our last day, so we bundled ourselves up, got in the van, drove straight to Bangkok airport, a 9-hour flight home, huge amount of pain. And luckily I knew I had a friend who's a surgeon, so I was actually able to get my hamstring reattached within a couple of days and recovered very quickly. But yeah, so not many people can tell you they've fallen off an elephant, but not that that's a fabric of who I am, but I thought that's a fun fact about me.
That's unique, yeah.
It is unique, yeah, that's right. Well, they tell me that no one else had ever fallen off an elephant at this sanctuary, but given how easily it happened to me, I'm sure there have been others, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you should use that in your marketing. Say, hey, if I survived falling from an elephant, like 3 meters high, then so can you survive from whatever. You use that as that person says. Right. Use that as always something unique about you. You know, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah. No, I was very lucky actually. I didn't land on my head, and in fact, I'm so glad it was me and not one of the kids. That would have been horrific. So the fact it was me, I'm just incredibly grateful for. So yeah,
that's part of the experiences that we go through life. That's amazing. Anyways, Phil, I feel that me and you, we can talk for hours and hours. You're an amazing person, a human being. You have an absolutely beautiful heart, which is absolutely amazing. God bless you. You're doing the work of God on this planet, and keep it up for another 200 years from now. And keep
mate,
cheering for you. And yeah.
Thanks, mate. Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about something that's very passionate to me. And yeah, good on you for what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my honor. Thank you, and we'll catch you later. Have a great one, my friend. Take care.
All right, mate. Take care.
Ciao.